So first, I want to talk about the council reorganization, and also if you'd like to follow along all of the content for this podcast, I have it posted on my webpage, buffalocomptroller.net/therapy. So buffalocomptroller.net/therapy is the URL. I have links to the content I'll kind of be reading and also some of the videos if you want to watch the longer clips. Obviously, we have an hour, so I'm constrained on how much we can show. But if you want to see some of the videos, those are also hosted on buffalocomptroller.net/therapy. So the first thing that happened this week on New Year's Eve was the council reorganization. So with 2024 starting, the new common council members who were elected in last year's June primary primarily, and then officially elected in the November 2023 election, their term started on January 1st. So we had two new members of the Buffalo Common Council that were sworn in, Zanetta Everhart of Maston and Leah Halton Pope of Ellicott. So these are the two new council members. And kind of the mainstream press, the only thing they'll talk about is that we have two women on the council now, which is correct. We have two women on the council. We need more women on the council. It was 9-0 all male before, and having two female voices on the council is more than overdue, especially in 2023. But that's about as deep of analysis of these new candidates that the mainstream press will talk about. So Zanetta Everhart, she represents the Maston district. She's replacing the outgoing council member Ulysses Wingo. And so here's a post from her Twitter. She won Maston primary, and really she's well known for just being an advocate on the east side. I don't personally know her, but she also does kind of give me a little hope, and I think a lot of people outside of City Hall, that maybe she'll be an independent voice on the council. But she just started, so we really don't know kind of what her policy issues will be and how she'll progress on the council. The other new council member we have is Leah Halton Pope. So Leah Halton Pope is the new council member for the Ellicott district. So she is, and we'll get into later how she was some of the appointments she was appointed to on the Common Council reorganizational meeting, but she is the new Ellicott council member. She replaces Darius Pridgeon, who was the outgoing council president on the council. So two new voices, two new female voices, which are much needed. It's 7-2 split on gender, and I think it is definitely needed, but we'll see kind of how they progress as candidates and, kind of the new voices that they hear. Otherwise, all the new council members are the same. If you were following the election results, a lot of the council elections won like 90% to 10. So there really wasn't a lot of competition for these seats. A lot of them were picked up in June. They won the primary. So that was kind of the first thing that happened on January 1st was the swearing in of the two new council members. Then the next day on January 2nd, there was the reorganizational meeting. So now that there are new council members, outgoing president, the council needed to elect new leadership. So on the 2nd, they held their reorganizational meeting to kind of assign new leadership roles on the council, as well as elect new committee chairs. So the new president that was elected is Christopher P. Scanlon of the South District. So he was elected the new council president. He is the current council member of the South District, so South Buffalo. He was voted not unanimously, although the clerk said it was unanimously, in an 8-1 vote, all four. So he kind of ascended to this position. He was really critical in delivering the South District to the mayor's write-in campaign when he ran for mayor against India Walton, and he's pretty closely aligned with the mayor. So he's the new council president. So Article 3-13 of the city charter, it gives the powers to the president of the council. So Article 3-13 of the city charter, it states that the president of the common council shall preside at all meetings of the common council and shall appoint all committees, regular or special, and may appoint and at pleasure remove a secretary. So the council president does have a lot of power, as they kind of are kind of the head of the board of directors of the city of Buffalo. And also the charter states that if the mayor were to resign or he was not able to serve, the council president would become the interim mayor. So there was a lot of jockeying for this position leading up to this date, because there had been some rumors that the mayor might leave either to go to Buff State, still might be leaving to run for potentially the open U.S. Congress seat. So there was a lot of internal jockeying to get the votes for this position. You had 4 council members jockeying, and then really just came down to Chris Scanlon getting the votes for it. So, as I said, the vote was 8-1. So the only dissenting vote on Christopher P. Scanlon as the president was Council Member Rashid Wyatt of the University District, and I'll get in a little more about that vote. So it was 8-1, not unanimous, but almost there. So let's watch a clip of the reorganizational meeting on January 2nd, where Christopher P. Scanlon was appointed council president.
Item number 1 off of our agenda.
Item number 1, appoint council president.
Are there any nominations for council president? Councilmember Golombek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to place in the nomination Christopher P. Scanlon of the South District for appointment as the council president of the Buffalo Common Council, effective January 2nd, 2024.
Thank you. Are there any seconds?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Councilmember Wyatt.
I'd like to nominate David A. Rivera.
Are there any seconds? Hearing none, I think we are, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll for Councilmember Scanlon?
For clarification, point of clarification from law, we did not on the second nomination receive a second, so that nomination is no longer, there's only would be one nomination on the floor for Christopher P. Scanlon.
Motion to close nomination.
Having received, motion to close has been accepted. Councilmember Scanlon has been nominated for council president. Please call the vote.
Council members, you can submit yes, or you can state the council member Christopher P. Scanlon in order once called. Councilmember Bowman.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Everhart.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Farrelletto.
Councilmember Scanlon.
Councilmember Golombek.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Halton Pope.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Nowakowski.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Rivera.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Scanlon.
Christopher P. Scanlon.
Councilmember Wyatt.
No.
It has passed with a 8-0, so Councilmember Christopher P. Scanlon has the votes for council president.
Congratulations.
So as you can hear, Wyatt tried to nominate Rivera, and nobody seconded it, so it was a unanimous vote. So let's skip ahead to some of Christopher B. Scanlon's comments after being elected council president.
I want to thank Chief City Court Judge Jahir Pridgen for administering the oath of office. When I debated who I wanted to have swear me in, it was a pretty quick choice. Obviously, the family name means a lot to these chambers and your position with City Court as well, so it was an easy choice for me, so thank you for being here today. We are also joined by our Erie County Democratic Chairman, Jeremy Zellner, is with us. I want to thank you for being here today. As well as the Mayor of Buffalo, Byron Brown. Thank you for being here, Mayor. Mayor, I want to thank you, and I see a number of the commissioners within your administration are here today. So I want to thank you all for being here today, and I look forward to continue to work with you, the council, as we move the city forward. So again, thank you for being here today. I've had the great fortune during my tenure on the council to serve with three men who had either served as council president while I was on the council or just before I arrived on the council. And each one of them taught me, and I learned from them, very separate and distinct values and skills that I've tried to utilize and I think have benefited me and I hope continue to benefit me as I move forward. The first of them was Rich Fontana. Rich taught me how to be a grassroots, boots on the ground, customer service council member, and there was no one better at it. We all know that there's no cause too large for us to take on, but Rich was always there to remind us there's also no job too small that we should be willing to take on. And whether you had to get out and cut some grass or shovel some snow, you had to get to it. So for that, I'm very grateful, Rich. Thank you. I also served with former Council President David Franziak, who taught me and all of us to respect and to legislate through our charter. He lectured us about it and told us to hold that document near and dear to us and let it be our guiding light in these chambers. And for that, I'm wiser. So I wanted to thank David. And finally,
I'll just say the charter as a guiding light statement is pretty ironic, given that the council regularly violates the charter when it's convenient to them, and then follows the charter when it's convenient to them. So the charter, they really interpreted it how they feel, and often ignore the councils. We'll get into that sooner, but let's go back to some of Scanlon's comments.
Darius Pridgeon, a man who introduced me to a new level of community engagement. A man who preached independence and then walked the walk. And from that, I'm a much better public servant. So I want to thank Council President Pridgeon. I can't go any further without thanking my incredible wife, Katie, who's giving me a stern look right now.
Okay, so let's move on. So that was the council president's speech. So Christopher P. Scanlon is the new council president. I personally am not optimistic that we'll see much change, but also open to maybe seeing how Scanlon and the council acts, but is really kind of status quo establishment is kind of the general consensus, not only mine, but as people that follow the council. So the next person that was promoted was majority leader. So Leah Halton Pope, the new council member from Ellicott, was nominated and appointed as the council majority leader. So some of you might ask, what is a majority leader? So according to Wikipedia, the internet's #1 source for truth and information, in U.S. politics, the majority leader is a partisan position in a legislative body. So really, they kind of act as the Democratic, at least in this context. The majority leader acts as like kind of the Democratic liaison working for the Democratic Party, because we have a council that is, we don't have a minority position. It's 9 Democrats on the council, so they really are the political person. And Leah Halton Pope worked for the current New York State Assembly member Crystal Peoples Stokes, so she's well versed and positioned to kind of know the ins and outs of the Democratic machine. So let's watch a little brief clip from the vote of the majority leader.
I'd like to open nominations for majority leader. Do I have a nomination? Councilmember Farrelletto.
For the position of majority leader, I would like to nominate Leah Halton Pope. In the almost 200-year history of the city of Buffalo, Leah will be the second woman to serve as majority leader and the first woman of color to serve as majority leader. Thank you.
Yep. Do I have a second? Councilmember Rivera.
Mr. Chairman, it's my honor and privilege to place or second the nomination of Leah Pope. I've had a brief experience with her in the last few weeks or maybe even months, but I had heard about her and her passion for her community, her legislative skills that many people know, I know that she will be an asset to this council. So I know it'll be in good hands. I'm looking forward to supporting the majority leader and the work that the majority leader has to do and making sure that everything flows smoothly on behalf of 9 different councilmatic districts, with each one having unique problems. So I second the nomination of Leah Pope. Thank you.
Any other nominations?
I second as well.
Seconded by Councilmember Gollenbeck as well.
Hey, roll call.
Seeing no other nominations,
Motion to close
motion to
nominations.
close.
So Halton Pope, the vote went in and she was approved anonymously. And, you know, that all sounded great to Danny. One thing that they won't talk about in the council is how Leah Halton Pope was essentially gerrymandered into the Ellicott District council seat. So according to her, Leah Halton Pope's bio on the council website, she lives in the Ellicott District with her husband, Mark Pope, who is the chief of staff to the former and outgoing council president, Darius Pridgeon. So Leah Halton Pope was a member of the Citizens Commission on Reapportionment. We might all remember how they gerrymandered the maps in 2022, but Leah Halton Pope was actually a member of the Citizens Commission. So conveniently, on May 18th, the city held a public hearing where one person showed up and thought that the current maps were great. And so that was May 18th. That was 4 days after the shooting at Tops on Jefferson. So one person showed up. They said it was great. The next day, the Citizens Reapportionment Committee had a meeting where the only new order of business was to go over public comments. And again, the public comment was that the map was great. And for some reason, according to the very thin minutes, it was discussed giving Fillmore 10 to the Ellicott District and giving Ellicott 24 to the Fillmore District. Why this was discussed or brought up, the minutes don't tell us. But my theory, and this is just a theory, was that this was done intentionally to conveniently Leah Halton Pope, whose residence at the time was at 500 Seneca Street, was in the Fillmore District. So this backroom swap was kind of, they gave the Fillmore 10, where Leah Halton Pope lived at the time, to the Ellicott District in exchange for Ellicott 24. And that way, the Fillmore District could encompass more of downtown, and Councilmember Nowakowski could be the representative that kind of is the voice of the downtown corridor. And then conveniently, this would position Leah Halton Pope to run for Ellicott District. So in my point of view, this is just my personal opinion, it was kind of an example of the machine just kind of working the levers of power. And now, coincidentally, this candidate that they manipulated, the Citizens Reapportionment Committee, is now the majority leader and has taken a prominent leadership role in the council. So I'm open to seeing how the term progresses, but I think this kind of stains at least the just an example of the powers that be using the rules to kind of get their desired outcome. So that's the new majority leader. The other position that was appointed was the president pro tempore, Brian Bowman, the Lovejoy Council District member. So I didn't know what pro tempore meant, so I looked up again on Wikipedia, and pro tempore is a Latin phrase which best translates to "for the time being" in English. This phrase is often used to describe a person who acts as a locum tenens, or placeholder in the absence of a superior, such as the council president. So I interpret that as he's essentially the vice president of the Common Council. So if Christopher P. Scanlon, for some reason, couldn't serve as president, council member Brian Bowman would, I think, take the acting duties. Bowman seems like a nice enough council member. I don't think he makes any kind of controversial statements, or I think he kind of sticks to his district, which is Lovejoy. We'll skip ahead